Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 8th and probably final part of the making of the 13th Cross. A year and a half later, a little bit more than that, actually. I am Joseph DeGollier, and I'm joined by our cinematographer slash second unit director slash producer slash editor, Parker Peterson.
Slash colorist.
Slash colorist. That's right. Oh.
Not when you introduced me as the 2018 Best Cinematographer winner at the Utah Film Awards, Parker Peterson. But that's okay. We'll let that slide.
Okay. I got some volume issues with you, so let me just turn you down a little bit. Okay. All right. So, Parker, this is mostly you we're going to be talking about today. And we're going to be talking about our entire post-production process, because we should have done like a couple of these, but we didn't. And so now we got to talk about the entire thing. We've been putting this off for a very long time. So what was our original plan with editing the movie? Do you remember?
Well, what I can remember is we were going do like a split, like between you and me. Like I would do stuff, I'd send it to you, and you would do some stuff. But then you were living in Los Angeles, the city of angels.
Yeah.
And someone stole your laptop.
That's right. So we couldn't find a good editor. Not that they didn't exist, but we didn't want to pay anyone, obviously. From our graduating class at UVU, it would have been nice to grab someone who was really like interested and good at editing. And we just couldn't think of anyone. So that was part of this. Otherwise, we would have probably invited someone else on. When we did Emmanuel's song, I had a guy named Hector edit that project with me. And Hector, he's got a family, and he was just too busy to work on this project at all. So I did offer it to him, basically. Because it was really good. And this was the first time I had ever done it, was on Emmanuel's song. The first time I had ever co-edited something. And I just gave him the credit. So my credit's not on there. But what happened was Hector did the first edit, and then I would do the second. And then I'd send it over to Hector, and he would do like the next edit. And then I think from there, after like the fourth pass, I just kind of like tweaked it as I saw fit. And then we had other people give their notes, and then I tweaked it some more. And then that was the finished product. But Hector did basically a lot of the legwork, and it helped me. Obviously, with other short films, I always did the editing myself. And with like the paid project I was doing in LA, I did the editing myself on as well. But I liked keeping the objectivity of being able to like look at someone else's edit work and like make adjustments to it. And that was super helpful, and I wanted it for this film because I wanted the film to be as good as it could. I didn't want it to be reliant upon my own editing in my own echo chamber, and so I wanted a co-editor, or I wanted an editor. And so yeah, it then became obviously like it's basically this project is the project of 3 people and then a lot of other helpers. But three people wore many hats on the 13th Cross. And that would be me, you, and Paige, obviously. And so when it came to the edit of the movie, it was basically down to me and you. And we talked about, I wanted to keep that objectivity that we had with Emmanuel's song. And so I wanted you to do the first cut, and then I would do the second cut. We would go back and forth, basically like arguing and correcting each other's work until like finally we came up with something, decent. But not long after you'd done the first cut of the film, someone broke into my apartment and stole my state-of-the-art, incredible laptop. and I was left with nothing to edit on. And so it became all you, Parker. with me giving my notes every few weeks.
No, I wanted to be the sole editor and take credit for everything. So I'm the one that stole your laptop.
Oh, yeah, you came all the way down from Virginia. Yeah.
Yeah. That seems like so long ago now. Like every time I watch the movie now, like we've been tinkering it with it these past few weeks, and I look at the end credits, the little thing you added, thanks to the a-hole who stole Joe's computer. Like, I always forget that happened, and then I look at that in the credits, I'm like, oh yeah, Joe totally got his laptop stolen.
Yeah,
a few days after moving to LA.
Didn't it take us like 8 months to get to the final cut of the movie? It took us a long time.
Yeah.
And it was because it was all you.
Yeah.
And you're not being paid to do it. And then it would have to come to me, and I would have to watch it because we live on opposite coasts. I would have to watch it separately and then take a bunch of notes and then send them over. And, oh my gosh, it was a nightmare editing process.
Wasn't ideal. It definitely was not ideal.
No, and what are you editing on? You're editing on like a MacBook Pro from like what year? Just a Mac desktop. I think it's a 2014 or 15. Oh, okay, so not as bad as I thought. I thought it was like a 2012 or something like that, because like we're dealing with. I know the first thing we had to do was figure out how to do all the proxies. I say we, like I did it, but you definitely did all that. So tell us about the proxying and that whole process up to the first cut of the film.
Oh my gosh, this is all starting to come back. I've filed this away in my brain.
Blocked it out. It's too traumatizing.
Pretty much YouTube became my best friend for a while. Well, it still is. But yeah, because the thing is, both graduated from UVU, obviously, from school. They don't teach, you really don't know how to do stuff until you just do it. I was not prepared in any way for what I had to do for this movie by anything from there.
Despite having a degree in all of this.
Yeah. Pretty much, I just had to go on to ye old YouTube, and thank goodness there's videos on how to do basically everything in the world on there. And the proxies took a long time, didn't they?
Oh, yeah. That was the first month.
It took a month, didn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Yeah, because obviously my fancy Mac desktop could not handle the full quality of the Blackmagic 4K cinema file. Yeah, we had to downgrade those bad boys.
Yeah.
I forgot it took that long. It really did take... that's we lost a whole month of editing just to that.
Yeah.
There was no editing being done.
If we lived in the same state, if we were in the same place, if we could work in the same place, and neither of us had to have a full-time job at the same time, this movie probably would have taken 4 or 5 months of post-production.
Yeah.
But I think actually having all the time that we had, being able to go over the cuts over and over again was actually pretty positive. So you had to do the proxies, and then what was your process with the first cut of the movie? What do we call that kind of cut again? It's the assembly.
Trash cut. The want to kill yourself cut.
Yeah, the one you want to kill yourself on cut.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always the hardest one for me to do too, because I just want to make everything perfect. like, I know you just have to put everything down. So it was like, I think it was really long.
Yeah.
Wasn't it like over 3 hours?
No, it wasn't over 3 hours. It was almost 2.5.
Oh, okay.
It was pretty long.
But that's pretty long, yeah. Now it's only quite 2 hours, right? It's like an hour.
It's an hour and 30. 40. It's an hour and 47 minutes. It's without the credits. It's like an hour 42.
Yeah,
which is still 12 minutes longer than we thought it would be.
Yeah. Somehow we cut it down to now I'm starting to remember.
Dude, there are big scenes taken out of that thing.
Really are, scenes. Yeah.
And we put everything, like, with the assembly cut, you hear, like, oh, there was an original cut of a movie that was, like, 5 hours long. It's like, yeah, because they put the long version of every single scene in. And they didn't cut anything.
Yeah.
So, of course, it's ridiculously long. And then you just kind of, like, you chip away at it. At least that's what we did. And I remember with the first one, I had you go into, because we edited this in Adobe, I had you go into their, like, automatic color correction thing. I had you put everything black and white because I had heard in some interview somewhere, it's like, you know, color, like, really messes with your head when you're watching a cut, which I now think is just total BS. Because when I watched that thing in black and white, I was distracted by the fact that, like, things didn't look right because we didn't shoot it to be in black and white.
Who said that? Albert Einstein.
Yeah, he's got no no experience in filming, Albert Einstein. So I shouldn't have listened to him at all. But no, I remember that, and I remember there's a David Fincher quote. He says, "If you don't want to kill yourself when you watch the first cut, there's something wrong." Like, there's something wrong with you if you think that the first cut is good, basically. That's like kind of the way to read that. I was like, yeah, this is awful. We made an absolute piece of trash. But no, it was just a long version of it. We knew we were going to be able to. There were parts of it that were working, so I was like, okay, I don't feel horrible, I guess. But yeah, it was from that point on, it was literally, I would send you either voice notes, and I'm sorry that I did not standardize these. It was mostly based upon what was convenient that night with, like, what kind of notes I would give you. And oftentimes I like to watch the movie on my big screen, like on my 50-inch television, so I had to rig that up in order to get into, like, the private video links through my PS4, which was sometimes worked and sometimes didn't, and then I'd be able to watch that on, like, the 50-inch television. And then I would take voice notes on my phone. If I was watching it on the TV, I would do that. But if I had to watch it on my laptop, then you would get the typed ones.
Yes, I remember.
So I don't know if you liked that, or what, how did you feel about that?
No, I mean, it's the only option we had, being I was in Maryland and you were in LA. So, I mean, it's like, obviously we can't meet up together. So there's really nothing else we could have done other than, like, what we were going to do is just, you could have done the thing where we go back and forth, like, you do some edits and then I do some edits. But we all know what happened to your laptop, so
yeah,
we're left with no other option.
Yeah. So the first cut of the movie took like 8 months, and it was ridiculous, and it was a lot of work on Parker's part. And I don't feel super great about it. I know that, like, next time we do a movie, or at least the movie after the next movie, we'll see. We gotta get an editor. Gotta get someone. Not that you're not a great editor, Parker, because you are. You're a really good editor.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm gonna do it again. The cinematographer, the editor.
I know. I was pretty close to giving you a co-directing thing, and I'm like, no, I'm making all the final decisions. I can't give him a co-directing credit. Sorry, Parker. But there was there's just the idea that we did this without having someone dedicated as an editor is ridiculous, because next time, totally, We got to get an editor, because it's unfair to throw that. First off, I don't want to edit myself because I want that objectivity. I want to be able to give notes and maybe make tweaks, or definitely make tweaks throughout, but it gives me the chance to like watch the movie for the first time over and over again and see how it's working and where it's lagging and what cuts seem odd or whatever. I'm never used to the cut in the same way. So that's super important. So yeah, definitely next time we're getting a dedicated editor, and then you can still do the color correction afterwards if you're doing the director of photography work. Because it makes sense to have the director of photography do the color timing, or at least someone that's under the observation of the director of photography, you know?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and then the main thing, it was just now, we're going on. We filmed it in August 2018.
Don't say that.
Now we're almost to June 2020, so it's like that's my main it was a lot of work for me, but like I would do it all again. Like it was a good like learning experience, and honestly, for the most part, it was pretty fun.
Yeah,
editing an entire feature film, but the thing that sucks is I just feel like we've lost. Like there's nothing we can do to change it now. If we did have an editor, ideally, and for the next one, it can just start editing as soon as we start shooting. So
yeah, exactly, and then you can have a cut by the end of the shoot, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is what you're supposed to do.
That's what they say you're supposed to do, but what if those people know?
Yeah, we're rebels here, learning that definitely what people normally do is the right thing. But yeah, Parker, thank you for doing all that hard work on the editing, and no thank you to the piece of crap that broke into my house. Of course, when you guys actually watch the movie, there's a nice little credit for that person at the end of the credits, which Parker mentioned earlier.
That's the best part.
Yeah, is it the best part of the whole movie is the credits. Oh boy. All right, so we went over the thievery. I got an outline here. Okay, then we were looking for a composer. Okay, so for the most part, we had you. There was very little temp music that I was okay with you putting in, because I did not want to get attached to any sort of temp music.
Because if you start throwing in like John Williams or Hans Zimmer or something, it's obviously going to make your movie way better than it is. You don't want.
Well, yeah, and you want it to be as good as you can without score, in case you don't want to score part of the movie. Like,
very true.
You don't want to like be attached to, 90% of this movie is scored by something. Dude, when you watch like a cheapy movie, like the one we just made, but like in the same realm, where it's a movie somewhere between like $10,000 and $200,000 budget, and you watch it and you just know that they just filled it with rock band soundtracks, or not rock band. What's the garage band? Garage band's They just filled it with garage band soundtracks, and it's prevalent throughout the entire thing. And so, there's gonna be we have amateur actors, and we shot it really fast, so we have like technical problems and stuff like that. And the best thing that we can do, though, is to edit through that and make it as good as possible, given what we have, and not rely on score to like console us through bad filmmaking. And so I think that was the right choice. Now, we did end up keeping one of the like 3 tracks we used for temp music. There was like some freebie track somewhere, so we definitely we fell for it. There's one scene in the movie with music that was not made for the film, that's not a pop song. Now we have two. So we have some James Game Boy tracks. James Game Boy is a listener, or was a listener to some of the podcasts I did, and I found out he was a musician. I listened to his stuff, and it's really good. And I asked him if I could put one of his songs in the movie, and he said yes. There's also a song. There's two songs written by. No, there's three. I guess there's three. Okay, so now I'm talking about the music now. And the pop song specifically. I'll talk about the score in a second. There's one song that's from my old band in high school.
Yeah.
That's in there. There's one song that is from my podcast where I did a Megadeth spoof of a Final Fantasy track, and it's just the instrumental part, so it's all stuff that I made up. And that's playing out of someone's car in the movie as diegetic sound. It's like really hard rock. And so let's see. And then there's a original song that I wrote, and the reason I wrote it is because we didn't have enough music, or we didn't put music in the credits from the composer because I wanted to do a song at some point. And then oh my gosh. Okay, let me backtrack a little bit here. So we were done with the edit. And then it basically became, okay, it was my job to deal with sound stuff, and then Parker's job to color correct.
Make it look pretty.
That's right. So we split off the tasks from there. But of course, I still didn't have the technology to do anything very well. And there was a point earlier on where I was like, I might score the movie myself. And then that just became, with the laptop stolen, that just became impossible. Because I would have to record it either with analog, with the mic I'm using now or something like that, or I would have to set up a MIDI thing with a keyboard, and I just could not do it with the living situation I was at. I really handicapped myself by moving to LA. I'll tell you that. I really handicapped myself. So I didn't
Did you consider yourself a true artist and director, though, if you didn't do it,
if you
Joe?
didn't go to LA? I did need to go to LA for myself, I think. Just to know that I could leave home and go to a new place and start a life there. And
get your laptop stolen.
Be able to get on my feet and, meet a whole bunch of weirdos and do all that. And, yeah. So it was a big deal for me, but that was only personal life. As far as for the movie, it was a real big handicap. I'll tell you that. So what I did do was I put on a credit card, I bought a decent desktop from Amazon. I ordered one, and I put it on credit because I didn't have the money for it. And then I would have to make payments on it over the course of 6 months or something like that. And I was like, okay, this is going to be the sound mixing computer. And so I pulled in all the edit, and it was still it was really slow, and it just did not want to cooperate that well. And I was like, okay, this is just going to take a very long time. And it was around that time. I don't know if I have my timeline quite right, but at a certain point, I started looking for a composer, or basically I had 3 options from I could get the old composer for Emmanuel's song. I could get, but I remember with Emmanuel's song, that guy was really late on that thing, and I didn't want to deal with someone I couldn't really, I couldn't be assured that they would be able to get things to me on time. So I just didn't even contact that guy, and he wasn't someone I knew either. That was one of Paige's contacts. Although I think the soundtrack for Emmanuel's song is pretty good. And then at some point, there's a guy who always invites me onto his podcast to rank albums, and he's got this ridiculous hair metal band. He's got a glam rock band down in Nashville. And they're just kind of like a weird, goofy band. And then they have this podcast on the side that they like talk about music on. And I've been a guest on his show like a few times, and he likes Final Fantasy a lot, so he like would he's just like a big part of one of my podcasts as far as like audience.
Naturally, you both bonded.
Yeah, and I had listened to, so I definitely wouldn't have hired him based on his glam rock, but he had made a cover album. It was like a symphonic cover album of some obscure band, and he made that as like a gift to someone else, and it was pretty cool. Like, it sounded pretty awesome, and it was totally different from anything else I had ever heard of his. And I was like, okay, maybe he actually has like maybe he could potentially do like symphonic type music. So basically, and I'm sure it was pretty clear what I was doing, I was like asking him all these things like, hey, what other stuff you got? And then I would like look around and like listen to his stuff. And then he was like, look, dude, if you need a composer for your movie, I'll do it for free.
Nice.
Because he just wanted to do that. He wanted to have that experience of being able to do composing for a movie. And so basically I gave him like 4 or 5 movie soundtracks I thought would be kind of in the similar vein, mostly like Bernard Herrmann type stuff, which you can hear the Bernard Herrmann-esque kind of tones throughout the movie. And then, you know, he started making a soundtrack for the movie, and he made it like in a big time crunch. And because obviously we had taken forever editing the thing, and I wanted to be able to submit it into Sundance in a final cut. We didn't quite get there. We missed that. So submitted to Sundance in a non-final, like sound mix and music was not there and all that other stuff, and we didn't get in, of course. But that was the kind of the date when I wanted to finish everything by. Like there was a certain date. I can't remember if it was like September of last year or something like that. But there was a specific date that I wanted to end all this by. So he did it in a time crunch, and I did pay him just a little bit of money. It was basically nothing, but everybody who had worked on this movie except for me, you, and Paige had been paid in some way. Because me, you, and Paige, if we self-distribute this movie or if we get a distributor, me, you, and Paige are making the money off of that. So in order for me to feel like morally okay, feel like I had acted ethically, I made sure that everybody was paid something on the movie. Yeah, the movie would have cost only like $3,000 if no one was paid, but everybody was paid. So Greg was paid a little bit of money to do the soundtrack, and I thought he did a fantastic job. He really went like above and beyond what I expected. And so we got a whole soundtrack for a movie, and then me and you argued about where each track was supposed to go and what track was best in certain spots, because obviously Greg made an entire soundtrack, and it's a lot of music tracks that Greg made. And then basically me and you, we laid down all the tracks as he wanted them, and then we made adjustments just like we did with our edits, and like what felt tonally right for each scene and stuff like that. And we moved tracks around, like we used certain tracks in like different spots than what Greg was going for. And I think I gave him some odd direction too. Like I think I told him to make it more over the top than what the movie wanted to be. And so we kind of had to like subtlify. That's a new word. Subtlify. We had to subtlify some of the parts, because the movie's actually like a quieter movie than what I had thought I had written. So I was still like dealing with, you find the movie in the edit, really. Like what does the movie actually feel like?
Or does the movie find you?
Wow, that's real deep, Parker.
Looks like I'm going to be writing the next screenplay.
That's right. Hey, no one's stopping you, man. During COVID, you can do anything.
I mean, except for myself, who would rather do other things and not work and is lazy.
Come on, Parker. You can write. But, all right. So, Greg did the soundtrack, and then we were stuck in a position where I still had, like, my computer that I was making payments on, which I should have gotten a better computer. If I was going to, like, do payments on a computer, I might as well have gotten, like, a state-of-the-art one again. But I didn't want to be in debt forever, so I bought, like, an $800 computer, which is not good enough. Not good enough. Always buy the expensive computer if you want to do video editing. Video or audio editing, frankly. You just need the processing power.
You need that power.
Yeah, so I started to do the sound mix myself, and it was sounding okay. Like, I was told by Arlen Card, who I, of course, screamed at. You can listen to the Making of Emmanuel song episode for that. But Arlen was like, you have a really good ear, but you don't know how to use the stuff right, basically. That was one of the critiques I got from him.
And you got a chip on your shoulder.
And I got a chip on my shoulder. No, I love Arlen Card to death. But that was during sound mix stuff. So actually, like, you can hear my sound mix. I've been doing sound mixing since I was a kid, basically. My sister had this, like, recording program stuff, which was way ahead of its time. I don't even know how she got that thing. Like, this is incredible, like, sound recording stuff for Windows 98 computer. It was non-linear sound editor. And I made all these, like, dumb songs when I was 12 years old. But basically, since then, since I was, like, 11 or 12, I've done audio editing. And some people may be surprised to hear that if they hear my podcast. Sometimes they don't sound that great, but yeah, I've been doing that for forever. I make all these stupid songs. If I have the right microphone, like, I can usually make things sound pretty decent. Especially like those fake Megadeth tracks that I that I make people think that it's real Megadeth, which is hilarious to me, and still one of my favorite things to look at is YouTube comments on those things. But yeah, I have a decent ear for sound mixing, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do this myself. And then it just started, like, lagging so much. And I had initially offered the person that did the sound mix for Emmanuel's song, Josh Hone, who did do the sound mix for this one, but there was a process behind that. I initially only offered him, like, $500. It was basically, like, all I could afford at the time. And
that in your face.
This is a working sound guy. He doesn't do post-production sound all that often, but he has his own sound equipment. He usually does sound recording. And he gets, I asked him what his rate was. He gets a pretty decent, he gets pretty decent pay. If anybody wants to make money in Utah film production, go ahead and get yourself a boom pole. Because we all need you. But basically, yeah, I offered him $500, and that wasn't enough for how much work he was going to be doing, and I understood that. And then I asked around, and I asked our old film professor who makes independent movies, Dwayne Anderson, who does he recommend for sound mixing, and how much would he think he would spend on sound mixing and stuff like that. And then he gave me, like, a big email chain with a bunch of sound mixers. And then they gave me their actual rates for what they would do for post-production on a movie. And it was huge. And so I would
$100,000.
Not that much. None of them said that much, but they were all, like, pretty up there, I don't want to say any numbers out loud, but I went to Josh, and I went back to Josh, and I was like, okay, look, I can't find anybody to do this sound mix for me.
Please.
Tell me, what would you do this sound mix for? And he liked the movie. That was part of it, was that he watched the movie. He thought it was really good, and so he wanted to be part of the project. So he actually gave me a pretty good discounted rate. It was more than $500, but he gave me like a really cheap rate for the sound mix. And it was just a stereo sound mix, not 5.1 or anything like that. And so he did it. And basically the process for editing was the same process me and Josh Hone had. It was like, he would do a cut of the movie. I would listen to it on my like mixing headphones. I would give him notes. And I would go back and forth for a few weeks, and I gave him no hurry because I had to pay him in like little payments through PayPal. Like when I would get a chunk of money, I would send him a chunk of money until it got up to the amount that he was willing to do it for, which was still way cheaper than everybody else. So I really appreciate that, and I think the sound mix sounds really good. That was a problem we were having, and a problem that a lot of films on our level have, is like, we don't have money to get the actor in there for ADR again. We didn't have money for a sound person, which was dumb of us, by the way. So Josh had to do a lot of work to fix a lot of sound or make it sound as good as possible. And that is kind of like a telltale sign of a cheapy movie is bad sound. But I'll tell you what, and we do have a couple scenes where like the sound is like, but there's nothing we could do about it, basically. It was just bad sound on the day. There was, I think that, sorry, I lost my train of thought here for a second. I was looking at the microphone. What was I talking about, Parker?
We're talking about sound.
Oh yeah, okay. Amateur stuff. And what was good for us. So, the first like 10 minutes of our movie have no dialogue. And that is a blessing in disguise. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Actually, I think like the first 15 minutes of our movie there's some dialogue, and there's like a lot of environmental sound in the first scene with like dialogue in it. If I'm getting this right, I might be out of order. Basically, like, yeah, first 10 minutes of the movie has no dialogue. So if someone's into the movie, they're already into the movie, and the sound's not going to pull them away by the time, there's little weird glitches in the sound or whatever. Which most of the movie doesn't have bad sound, but it's kind of like a manual song. There's like a couple little trouble spots. Josh did what he could with it without us doing ADR. You'll see other cheap movies are all ADR because they had bad sound too. But yeah, definitely lesson learned on that. But it's I'm pretty happy with the sound mix that we got now.
I'm very happy. I think it turned out very good for how we recorded it. Yeah.
So yeah, he was doing the sound mixing side of thing, and you were doing color correction. So tell us about your color correction process.
Well, I would get up in the morning and have a cup of coffee, and then there wasn't really. I think I went linearly. I think I just started from the beginning. I'm remembering right. And I just worked. Once we got a final cut locked, I just brought it into DaVinci Resolve.
Which you didn't want to do. I remember
Which I didn't want to do in the past. Like, in taking a VU, like in classes, they're like, I always had a hard time bringing in footage from Premiere into there. But thanks again to ye old YouTube, I figured out a way, finally. I was able to import the proxies from Premiere of the movie into DaVinci. And yeah, once I figured how to do that, I just started at the beginning and went through the movie and colored it. And it was I feel like we did it pretty quick. Maybe it took maybe 2 months to color. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, when it normally takes 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But we wanted to take our time because we wanted the movie to be as good as we could make it. We didn't want to rush anything.
Let's just make this perfect and take 2 years.
It was a year and a half by the time we were done. We've been waiting around for a few months down. We'll get to that. But yeah, he started doing color correcting, and I had a few notes. Not that many notes, I don't think. There was mostly just like a problem with one shot. You want to tell us? You want to tell us about that shot and our whole history with that shot? A necessary shot, by the way. A shot that I don't think can be cut out of the movie.
Yeah, no, it definitely needed to be. Yeah, no, it needed to be in there. But basically, so starting at the beginning, back in August 2018, you had to leave for a day. You had some personal matters to attend to.
It was my grandmother's funeral. So
yeah,
I had my grandmother's funeral.
Yeah, which you made the right decision. Good thing you went to that.
Yeah, I think so.
But in doing that, it was me and Paige, who were definitely more than capable of,
It was a small day of shooting. It wasn't like, well, you guys made it a long day of shooting, but it wasn't that many scenes.
I don't know what you're talking about.
So they were the second unit directors. Go ahead.
They were only there for like 12 hours.
Yeah.
But yeah, pretty much Paige and I were in charge of directing that day, as well as Paige was also boom operator, sound recording, and I was obviously cinematography. So we were definitely wearing a few hats that day, and it went pretty good for the most part. Everything went pretty dang smooth. Everything turned out good, except this one scene where Moses is driving home in the movie.
It said exterior night.
It's supposed to be an exterior. Well, it is. It is in the movie. We finally, after much passing of it back and forth between you and I, you finally figured out a way to put the cherry on top and make it look like night. But yeah, Paige and I totally misread the script, made a boo-boo, and I filmed the main character in his car in the middle of the day in August.
Blown out windows.
And it's supposed to be a night shot. So, yeah.
That
took a while to get that bad boy ironed out.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I remember there was something weird in the edit. I can't quite remember it, but I just remember going how are we going to turn this? How are we going to do this? And I remember trying to ask Sterling and Eric, who plays Moses in the film. He was kind of dragging his feet on it. I was like, dude, can you just take a smartphone and have you driving and noticing something on the right-hand side? Couldn't quite get him to do that. They were... Sterling's a friend of ours.
We should mention at this point, I'm currently, we've shot the movie in Utah. I'm living in Maryland. I flew back to Maryland, do all the editing, obviously, and you had moved to LA, so.
That's right. So we're...
It's not like we're there and we can, wrangle up our main actor, Eric, and go film it again,
Because smartphone footage at night would have looked better than what we got. It had nothing to do, it would... you just shot it in the middle of the day and everything's blown out, which is fine for other scenes in the movie where he's driving around. But for this one, he's supposed to notice that the light's on.
Yeah.
To his right-hand side. And, I just remember, you took it in. I don't know if you did a matte on that shot.
Yeah, I think I did in DaVinci, yeah. And then I had to, track it on the window.
And so there were still these little white lines poking out. They're driving me nuts. I was like, dude, we got to fix this stupid shot. Yeah. But we'll save it for last. It's basically what I said. And then you try to, I think when we were done, sound mix done, color correction done outside of this one shot, and you had put some weird effects on it that kind of working, kind of not. At that point, I was I was trying to tell you what I wanted. I was like, dude, just put a vignette on it and make it barely visible, and just have his face poking through. I've kind of seen that done in other movies before. It's kind of like it's like a silent era trick. It's like we have the big vignette and like barely any like light coming in there. There's like I have no other option but to do this, and I guess I didn't communicate it that well, but it was like, just give it to me. So
I think I was understanding, but I was just not wanting to do it. I was just praying for another way. Like,
there's no other way. I couldn't think of another way. Like if the windows were like, if you put a bunch of stuff on the windows and you had the right filter on the lens and everything was in exposure,
yeah, would have been fine.
Then you could have made it day for night.
But when you blow it out and lose all the all the data,
you're losing the information out in the sky.
Yeah,
so it's
when you try to turn it on, all of a sudden it turns into a big, sloppy, pixelated mess.
Yeah, you just can't deal with it. So I fixed that shot. Thank you. Excuse me. You're welcome.
Yeah.
I pulled it into my $800 computer, just the one shot, and so this shot's probably not to full. This shot's probably like a 2K shot. I don't think it was to full 4K now, but we had no other choice. I had to take it. I put the vignette on it, made it so that it was barely visible, had it track his face a little bit, and it's still kind of squirrely, like if you see it on a bright enough monitor, but it's a short enough shot where I'm not that worried about it anymore. But yeah, that shot gave me months of pain, like stomach pain. Knowing that there was just a daylight shot matched with a nighttime shot that we shot at night. We shot the light being on in the trailer thing at night. Oh man. So yeah. Oh, that was fun. So yeah, there was that. And then we were done with the movie. And it was awesome. After a year and a half of post-production. Basically, we were finished with the movie, and about a month before we were finished with that, I commissioned a poster, which, if we get distribution, the distributors will probably replace the poster, so we'll just call this our Indiegogo poster. But basically, I had gone to a Final Fantasy convention for my podcast, and there was an artist in there who I thought was just absolutely amazing. And her name was Cedra. Her full name's like Cassandra something. And her name's at the bottom right-hand side of the poster in very small print. But she's amazing. So go check out Cedra, C-D-R-A. And she basically goes to conventions, like anime conventions, and she makes all this sort of stuff. But there were some things that weren't quite anime. And I figured that she would be, like, her use of color and stuff like that, I just thought she would be awesome as a poster artist. So I emailed her and then commissioned her to do a custom poster for the 13th Cross. So we got a sweet poster out of it. I think it's... Go ahead.
It looks awesome.
I think so too. I think I think the poster might be like the best thing that's come out of this project.
You should have just made a poster, not a movie.
Yeah. No, she's amazing. And the poster I think is amazing. It'll be the artwork for this episode on the podcast. So yeah, it's replacing my little like bloody scratch horror movie looking 13th Cross logo that I made in on my desk, which I still see right now.
Nice.
Yeah, there's no ketchup in it. It's just a faint scratch in the table, but so we made the poster. The poster was awesome. We submitted it to the big festivals. We didn't get into any of the huge ones, which we didn't think we would. Not on our first movie, but we hoped. Yeah, you always hope. And then I did I looked up information on like selling it at the American film market and stuff like that. Found out that wouldn't be quite what we wanted. And in case you were wondering, in case you're like a filmmaker out there, the American film market, there is a place for filmmakers there. But basically what you're trying to do is get representation for the movie itself, like a producer's rep. And then the producer's rep talks to the sales agents. The sales agents have multiple films that they want to sell. And then those sales agents probably packaging multiple genre movies, then go to distributors and get deals from there. So you as a filmmaker are usually not the person to talk to a distributor directly. There's actually like a couple middlemen in between that make it so that distributors don't have to deal with people who don't know what they're talking about. They're protecting themselves from that. So yeah, I found out about that entire kind of process by reading a book on the AFM by Ben Yanni. And so that was useful, and I knew I didn't have to waste money going to the thing. It was just like, get into the best film festivals you can and try to find a producer's rep if you want to. And so we're still in that point right now, which is we submitted to a bunch of film festivals. We're waiting to hear back on a lot of them, and I do have an announcement in a second. And then at the same time, I'm talking to a possible distributor, although we might end up self-distributing as well. So we'll see. We'll see with all that. I can't really talk about it, but that's what it is right now. And so we're just trying to figure out when we're going to release it. And when the movie is released, that's when everybody's going to get their Indiegogo. That's when I'll ship out all the Indiegogo rewards and stuff like that. So be excited for that. It should be in the next few months. But then, of course, COVID hit. So, like, a lot of the film festivals were pushed, including the days when they were going to say if we were going to get in or not. But we have a film festival that accepted us and is going to be our Utah premiere, and I guess our world premiere. Because I wanted, if we didn't get into any of like the huge ones, like the Sundance or the South by Southwest, then I wanted it to be a little Utah festival that we can go and basically have a party at and watch our movie on a big screen. And we did. It's called the Desertscape Film Festival. It's their second year ever. So it's a brand new festival in St. George. St. George is a beautiful city. It's about 4.5 hours outside of Salt Lake City and about 5 hours out of LA. About, like an hour and a half, 2 hours from Las Vegas. Gorgeous city out in the desert. And yeah, we're going to be out there in the late July. It's going to be ridiculously hot. But barring COVID complications, the movie will premiere between July 29th and August 1st of this year. So hopefully no COVID things happen. Hopefully we can go out there and have a great time.
Hopefully the world doesn't self-implode before then.
Yeah, I'll bring as many people as possible to that thing as well. I know my family will go and stuff like that. So it just matters on the COVID thing. I don't know like what the seating's going to be like or anything like that. They said they might have to do they might have to limit how many people can come in, to the building and stuff like that. So we'll see. I'll have more information around mid-June, so follow us on the socials for that. But super excited that people finally get to see the movie. Almost 2 years after it was after we started shooting, and then we got to start working on the next one, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So COVID's been good writing time for me. So that's the one positive that's come out of this. So yeah,
written like 4 scripts.
I have written, so starting on January 1st, I started living in my car because I was priced out of LA and I wanted to save some money. And so I re-rigged my entire car to be able to live in. I'd watched a bunch of van life, #van life videos, and I'm like, I don't have a van, but I do have a car. So I ripped out the back seats of my car. I don't have back seats anymore. I put a junior mattress down, which is like a little smaller than a twin bed. It's almost like a camping cot size. That's what I would call that. And a little shorter. And luckily I'm a shorter guy, so I can I could still spread out. And then I had, just the clothes I needed. I had a gym bag. I would go to the gym and stuff like that. And then, basically I was living like that. And then COVID came in, and I moved back to Utah to get my financials back in order and also to stay out of the way of COVID. So now I'm living back in Utah for a little while. And we'll see what the future is like. But that was a fun adventure too. But yeah, starting in January, I knew that in order to live like that, I really needed to have like a really good schedule that I would stick to. So I argued with my bosses at my work, like, this time to this time is when you have me. And I told them why. I told them exactly why. I was like, look, I'm living in my car. I need to be able to get up, go straight to the gym, work on my own projects, and then I'll go to work with you guys at late afternoon, basically. And so that's what I did. And so I started writing a lot. I had trouble writing beforehand. I had maybe in a year when we were working on the movie, in that year and 3 month span or whatever, I'd been out there. I had written maybe like 50 pages worth of screenplays. And it was just coming out slowly just because of my living situation. I was living with like 1 million people. And so it was just impossible to focus. But once I started doing that and just going straight to the library after going to the gym, I started like pumping out pages like crazy. And then I came over here and during COVID and started pumping out some more. So yeah, I have 3 finished first drafts of different screenplays. The first drafts, so they're not that readable right now. So it's not like I'm done. Like I never finished a screenplay, but a lot of pages were put out. And then I have 200 pages into a dream project that's huge and will never get made, but I'm going to write it anyway. So I have 200 pages in that, and that's going to be like almost 400 pages when I'm done. And then I'll have to trim that down by a lot. But yeah, that's a lot of writing was done during COVID, including writing on a movie that could take place in one location that we can make for $0, which I'm pretty excited that we have that option now, because our next project is probably going to be a documentary. But if we can't get anything going, we gotta make the one location movie I wrote. That's the idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you excited, Parker?
Oh.
I am too. Anyway, guys, I think that's going to be it for the Making of the 13th Cross Part 8. Is there anything else you remember about post-production we should talk about? I think we kind of went over everything.
There was that guy that you had to kill when no, I don't think so. I think those are going over the main hurdles, I feel like. Doing that freaking day for night shot. Got your laptop stolen. Talk about that.
Lots of lessons learned. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Lots of lessons learned. Anyway, if they have any Q&As at this festival or any other festival, I'll bring my microphone and then I'll post those as well. In case anybody brings up something we haven't gone over. But I feel like we've kept pretty good records of the entire process of this movie through this podcast.
Yeah, I feel like we have.
Yeah, we really have. So I'm pretty happy with that. And I'm pretty happy that the movie will come out at some point this year. So, yeah, at least our festival premiere will be late July, if barring any COVID complications. I'm really scared about that. I don't want to push it anymore. But we'll see. We'll see. We have no control over that, so. Yeah.
Premiere to more than 10 people.
Well,
6 feet apart.
I told them, I was like, look, I'd rather have festival goers fill the room than like me and my family and all the other like cast and crew and their family who are willing to drive down to St. George, of course. And so it was like, you know, if you're going to have limited spacing, I need to know so that I could just tell these people, you know, we'll wait for the next one.
Yeah, that's smart.
Yeah, or we can, there's a little movie theater in Ogden, like called like Theater on 24th Street or whatever. It's something like 50 seats, like it's tiny. But that'd be a cool, I know it costs like $150 to rent out. Like I could just rent that movie theater out and have my own little premiere for the cast and crew if later, if they can't get into the Desertscape one. But yeah, I'm excited for this Desertscape one. I'm excited to go to St. George for 4 days.
Yeah, I hope I can. Hopefully. Dude,
I hope so too. That'd be fun. We should hang out. Yeah. All right, man. That's it for this episode. I'm going to start recording. I'm going to stop recording now. Thanks, guys, for listening.
I'm on.